FNAF 4 was the first game in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise that baffled theorists so much that Scott Cawthon himself had to step in and set us on the right path. Unfortunately, this help didn't really help that much. In fact, it made this already cryptic game even more mysterious and unsolvable. To this day, FNAF 4 remains largely a mystery. Today, I want to do my part and finally solve a crucial part of FNAF 4's story, the Fredbear plush we see in the post-night minigames. This thing has remained a complete mystery for years now, and it's been largely forgotten, but now I'll be unearthing this weird little guy and piecing together the disturbing mystery behind him. So remember to subscribe because some of the clues I found might redefine the whole story of FNAF 4, and help us discover if the plush is a force for good or evil. The plush has only appeared in 2 FNAF games, FNAF 4 and Sister Location. The majority of his appearances are in FNAF 4, with the one in Sister Location being an Easter egg. But what I really want to focus on today are the FNAF 4 minigames and the plush's significance in them. The plush appears in 5 different FNAF 4 minigames, the one before Night 1, the games on Nights 1 through 3, and the one after the 6th night. And he has quite a bit of dialogue, so since he's such a small character, no pun intended, I had to analyze these lines as closely as possible. So let's start by going over the story being told in the FNAF 4 minigames. In these minigames, we play as a crying child whose only friends are his plushies of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Fredbear. The Fredbear plush in particular is special. It speaks at the child and comforts him when he's bullied by his older brother. The strange thing about this plush is that it appears to be able to move on its own free will, following you as you traverse the path to the nearby Fredbear's family diner. On Night 2, when you're actually at the diner, the plush isn't present, but you can hear his voice guiding you and giving you advice. So we can already tell that this thing is pretty weird, and it will probably have a tough time figuring this out, but that's never stopped me, and it definitely won't now. First off, the Fredbear plush Easter egg in Sister Location hints at what this plush actually is. In the fake ending of that game, in the private room, we can see a realistic version of the Fredbear plush next to a walkie-talkie. In that same room is a keypad that shows camera footage of the FNAF 4 rooms if the numbers 1, 9, 8, 3 are typed into it. Already, we can draw a conclusion that is solidified by the Five Nights at Freddy's Ultimate Guide. Someone is watching the crying child. And I have a pretty good idea of who that might be. His father, William Afton. So, a little bit of backstory is necessary here in case you don't know what I'm talking about. The crying child and his bullying older brother are thought to be William Afton's kids by 99.9% of the Fierce community, myself included, with the older brother being Michael Afton. There are multiple reasons for this that I won't get into in this video, but if you want to see a video on that in the future, like this one so I know, or leave a comment. Anyway, why would William spy on his own kid, and are these Fredbear plushies actually cameras? To answer the first question, I think I might have an idea. I think that William is probably planting these cameras around Fredbear's to keep his son under control, and is making him go for these nightmare experiments to keep him away from the restaurants. But why would he do this? Well, theorists, I think it's because Crying Child saw something he wasn't supposed to, something William wanted to hide. The body of Charlotte Emily, the girl we see William murder in the Take K to the Children and Security Puppet minigames. In the latter minigame, we see the eponymous Security Puppet trying to save Charlotte, but ultimately shutting down next to her corpse and getting possessed by her. If this happened at Fredbear's, as hinted at by the slightly different Freddy sprite, possibly Fredbear, Crying Child could have seen the puppet next to Charlie and thought that it had killed her. Another FNAF theorist, Right Host, has said that they think Shadow Bonnie is an agony being, and the representation of the pain felt by Charlotte when she was killed. It materializes as Bonnie because that's who Charlie associates her killer, William, with, the Spring Bonnie suit he'd wear while performing. Now, I know what you're thinking. Shadow Bonnie doesn't look like Spring Bonnie, he's more like Toy Bonnie, right? Good point, but if you look at the toy and Springlock models of Bonnie side by side, you can see there's lots of similarities. The three-toed feet, thinner build compared to the classics, similarly rounded ears, the list goes on and on. I think the reason Crying Child sees Charlie is because Shadow Bonnie led him to her. The Midnight Motorist minigames about the Aftons, which I believe to be the case, the footprints we see outside the house could be Shadow Bonnie's, explaining how there's only 2 of them. In FNAF 2, he stands straight up with his feet on one line. As well as that, his appearances in FNAF 3 and FNAF AR seem to confirm he's a force of good. So, what does all of this rambling have to do with the Fredbear plush? Well, if William knew the Crying Child had run away once and found something he shouldn't have, he'd want to keep tabs on him at all times, using multiple Fredbear plushies along the path to Fredbear's to make sure he could keep his son under control. The Fazbear Fright story, The Real Jake, is similar to this and helps solidify the idea that William is talking to Crying Child through the plush. In the story, Jake, a kid with a rare brain tumor, is bound to his room, with the only part of the day he looks forward to being bedtime when he talks with his secret best friend Simon. Every night, Simon tells Jake that when he feels well enough, he should stand up and open the closet Simon is hidden in. It turns out Simon is actually Jake's dad Evan, who's abroad in the army pretending to be this imaginary friend to give his son hope. Eventually, Evan dies and Jake stops getting messages from the doll and the baby monitor he used to send the messages. The story ends with Jake dying and the closet door being wide open, the Simon doll and baby monitor nowhere to be seen. The parallels are obvious. A father pretending to be an imaginary friend to his son who dies at the end sounds all too familiar. However, there are several issues with the theory that William is the Fredbear plush. Firstly, we see William in the FNAF 4 minigames while the Fredbear plush is speaking to us. Secondly, why would William be saying all those things about the crying child being in danger at Fredbear's? This is why many have chosen to disregard this theory, but what other theories are there about the Fredbear plush? Well, the biggest chain of theories surrounding the plush is the idea that this thing is possessed. By who? Well, there's two big candidates, Charlotte Emily and the vengeful spirit, most likely Cassidy. There are two main points for this theory as far as I'm aware. Firstly, the plush is called the Possessed Fredbear plush, an official merch depicting it, and secondly, the dialogue on FNAF 4's 6th night seems to indicate that there's someone separate from the previous characters speaking to the crying child. Basically, if you beat the 4th game's 6th night, you unlock a secret 7th minigame where we see the crying child sitting alone in an empty void, likely a hospital room fixed at the hospital image during the game and flat tone at the end, as his Fredbear plush consoles him and vows to put him back together. The problem theorists have with this minigame is a seemingly small but actually huge detail. When the Fredbear plush speaks to the player, his dialogue appears as faded light yellow text. However, in every single one of the previous minigames, it appears as darker yellow text that isn't faded. Many use this as evidence that the plush isn't William but rather a spirit trying to help crying child to move on. Here's why I think this isn't the case. The merch evidence is really weak, and I have a much more compelling explanation for the change in text color. You see, I think the different shades of yellow don't have anything to do with the character saying these lines, but rather how the crying child is hearing what's being said. If we're to assume William is speaking to his child for a walkie-talkie or baby monitor, which is very heavily implied by the real Jake and the private room and sister location, it makes sense that his voice would be more muffled since it would be distorted by the speakers on or inside the plush. When he's actually in the same room as crying child, like the hospital room after night 6, his voice is clearer, lighter, just like the color of the text. Instead of being important to the lore, the color is a mere stylistic choice used to convey that William is actually present in the room. As for why William is scaring his own son, it's for the reasons I explained earlier. He's scaring his son away from the Fazbear locations, either to protect himself or the company from any harm a blabbing child might cause. Thus, William is manipulating CC into doing his bidding. However, there's one last thing that might make the possibility of the Fredbear plush being something else more likely. FNAF World. In this game, the plush feels like a much more protective entity, spreading clues to the various endings of the game. This seems very unlike William. I think it's possible Charlotte Emily, who's likely the mastermind behind FNAF World, is taking the form of the plush crying child loved so much while still alive, since I think the game is all about freeing CC's soul. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. We also catch a glimpse of what appears to be the Fredbear plush in the second trailer for Into the Pit, which might debunk the theory that he's just an imaginary friend and nothing more. It's likely this was a widespread and mass-produced piece of Fazbear Entertainment merch, like the masks the bullies wear during the Bite of 83. But who knows, maybe it doesn't mean anything or will become hugely important. In conclusion, I think the Fredbear plush is almost definitely controlled or manipulated by William Afton, at least in the mainline games. I do think he's become a sort of imaginary friend to CC, but the real physical manifestation of him is a plushie with a walkie-talkie in it being used by William. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this theory, and if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. We're slowly inching towards 1K, and your help would be highly appreciated. Also remember to check out some of my previous theories, my podcast, and my weekly streams. With that, theorists, remember, keep on theorizing and never stop overthinking.